Okay, so in this video, I just want to give you a really brief introduction to what functions are. Functions are essentially something that you use to do a bunch of repeating tasks. For example, if I wanted to um, repeat like a print statement like 50 trillion times, right? I could just use a loop or I could use a function. Now, a loop might be probably the more efficient way to do it if it's just a print statement, but you'll see that if you do something more complicated, you might want to use a function instead, especially if things are dependent on other factors such as your joystick position or if it has if-else statements in it that are based off of other conditions. So, yeah, functions are definitely useful for repetitive events or blocks of code essentially. Now, in this video, I particularly wanted to focus on the control flow because I forgot to show that in the other video. Rather, I feel you should know the control flow before you find out exactly how to use a function. But essentially what I did here, what you do in a function, right, is you make the function and let's say the repetitive work I want to do is printing the word orange, right? And then you call the function. So I say my func and that's it. I just call the function. Let me just hide all this junk. Oops. Sorry about that. Oh God. Whatever, that's fine. Yeah. Essentially what I did is I call the function and it runs. Now, if I do print before orange, you see how I defined this function before I actually put the print statement, but at the end of the day, it only ran after before orange. The reason is because this essentially sets up the definition of the function, but it doesn't actually use it yet. It only uses it when the function is called. And to call the function, you have to use something like this. So until it's called, it's not going to run anything in here. And hence, it will run this first. Yeah. Now, what do you think will happen if I try to move this before it? Now what do you think will happen? Will it work? No, it won't work because it reads this function call and it looks up. It actually goes up and looks for a predefined function that has some process that it needs to accomplish. But because I put this before I defined that function, it's going to give me an error as if it's not defined. That's why I have to make sure I define my functions before I call them. And again, even if I run um this like multiple times, right? At the end of the day, things only run after they're called. So even though I call my function like 4 times, right? In between, it's still going to put before orange somewhere in there. Yeah, see? Because this it's only when I actually call the function that whatever's inside it will run. So yeah, that's just important to keep in mind, the control flow of how functions work. And I'm sorry if I repeat a lot of this in the next video, but I felt this was really important for you to know before I explain how to use functions and how I show you examples of using them in the next video. So yeah.